Welcome into Moving the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Jerel Hendricks here for our Week 2 Folly Row recap show. Jerel, we saw some rain around the state on Friday. We saw some big upsets on Friday. A really good week of high school football.
I mean, is there such thing as a bad week, Kevin? I'll throw that back to you. And the answer is no. I'll answer my own question. I mean, it was a little bit soggy. I was down in the low country. I know John was in the PD area, got wet a little bit. You were out on the golf course, which you need to be doing. Take some time off, get some leisure. But no, it was a great, Friday night of football. Really enjoyed it. It's going to be fun recapping these games that we saw.
Well, if you guys tuning in for the first time, we really appreciate you. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter /X, Instagram, YouTube, and more at Movin Chains. That's MOVINCHAINS. Our website, movinchains.com. Our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Each week we do a live preview show on Tuesday nights about 7:15 on Facebook and YouTube. We break down that week's games. Love to have you guys hop in there and interact with us for that. We do a weekly recap show, comes out on Sundays, and we do players of the week, games of the week, teams of the week, coach interviews, all really good stuff throughout the week as well. So definitely check us out on all social media platforms. As always, get your Moving the Chains merch. We've got hats, we've got toboggans, we've got hoodies, got some t-shirts here coming soon as well. You can email mtcgear.sc@gmail.com, or you can send us a DM on any of our platforms. Even an email, something like that will be great. But love to have you guys supporting our merch out at the ball games. As always, if you've got suggestions for the show, let us know. Trying to make this recap show bigger and better and, more fit to what you guys are looking for. So if you've got some ideas for us, feel free to let us know. But before we get going, let's get a quick shout out to some friends of the program.
Put Founders in the game and win big with our great rates. Whether you're looking for a loan or want to grow your money with a certificate, Founders Federal Credit Union can help you move the chains on your financial goals. Not a member? No problem. Visit foundersfcu.com to see if you qualify. Federally insured by NCUA. Membership qualification required. Equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply.
Come for the deals and stay for the quality with Folly Row. From polos to Q-zips to hats and more, their moisture-wicking, quick-drying, and anti-wrinkle apparel is the perfect blend of comfort and fashion for game day. FollyRow.com and at Folly Row on social media. Folly Row. Very good polos.
Jerel, let's start with the game that you attended on Friday night down there in the low country, a hand-to-hand Bishop England matchup that, probably was a surprise to some with the final score there. But, Coach Hall and the Battling Bishops played a great ball game. Why don't you give us a little bit of a recap on that one?
Yeah, man, it was a fantastic game. Like I said, the weather definitely impacted things on both sides, but it was a very entertaining football game. Obviously, you can tell by the score, but to get started off, Hanahan, they first forced a quick 3-and-out there after the Bishops received the opening kickoff. Then we're able to just drive the ball down methodically and score. And so I thought Hanahan would be off and running. They took a 7-0 lead with a 5-yard run by Trey Shepard there with about 7 minutes left in the first quarter. But then the Bishops, man, they answered quickly. Had a 16-yard touchdown pass from Quinn Mahoney to Zach Baylog. I hope I'm saying his name right. Just a few minutes later on the next drive, we kind of just traded some punts there in a little bit and got into the second quarter. The defense is settled in. The rain started to pick up a little bit, and so saw a little bit of sloppy play there. But towards the end of the second quarter, right before the half there, turnovers became the difference. Bishop England was able to get a nice interception. I think it was the second or third play after the interception. Mahoney was able to connect deep on a 41-yard touchdown pass there. They go up 14-7 with about 2 minutes left. You thought that scoreline was going to hold there, but then a pick six right after from Hippensteel to William Donato, and the Bishops take a 2-score lead to go into the half. Just really flipped the game on its head there with, two costly turnovers, from hand to hand. And Bishop England, to their credit, was able to capitalize. I really thought, going into the half, it was going to be a 7-7 ball game. It was going to be decided in that second half. But once we emerged from halftime, the Hawks, man, they kind of did like they did in the first quarter there. They drove the ball down, relied heavily on the run game from Shepard, and get inside the 10. They get all the way to the 5-yard line. They subbed in a jumbo package on third down to try to punch it in and lost some yardage, kind of got them off schedule, had to call a timeout. Then they bring in another package and try to throw like a little flare route to the tight end. Doesn't work. They get stopped at the 1. That was the first time that the Bishop England defense would show up there early in the third quarter. And the same thing, you have it happen a little bit later where Hanahan's able to drive down methodically, get inside the 10, but they're turned away and get no points. So we took that scoreline into the fourth quarter of 21-7. The Hawks did. They finally broke through another long TD drive. They're able to score. It becomes a one-score game with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter on a 6-yard TD run from Trey Shepard. But when the Bishops get the ball back, they're able to drive down, get it inside the 10, kick a short field goal, and that really iced it. It was 24-14, 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. That scoreline held up. Just so impressed by how the battling Bishops were just able to rely on their defense. They're very opportunistic in the first half, and then they utilize some bend but don't break in that early third quarter, to keep the Hanahan momentum quelled, and we're able to just take those punches and escape Wiley Knight Stadium with a dub.
An awesome win for Coach Hall's squad, a team that is making a big jump up to 4A this year. Already sitting at 2-0. They defeated St. John's back in week 1, Hanahan here in week 2. Two nice wins for that program. We'll see as the season progresses how much their depth hurts them and whatnot. But that is a great start for him. I know, Jerel, we were talking off air a little bit on Friday night. You said you were super impressed with what they did scheme-wise and what kind of Coach Hall and the program was going through there on offense especially. But the defense, man, holding a pretty good Hanahan team there to 14 points. That's a really great showing from them. Obviously, I'm sure the rain may have affected that some. I don't know, but just an all-around great game there for Coach Hall and the Bishops. We actually have an interview that you got, Jerel, with him after the game. That's posted on our social media platforms, our YouTube page as well. Go check that out. Really good stuff from Coach Hall at Bishop England. Any final thoughts on that one, Jerel? Maybe final thoughts on Hanahan, the program, or the atmosphere before we kind of move on to the next segment?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about Coach Hall and what he's been able to build, in such a short time. You could just see the excitement, during the game, but especially after the game with how excited they were to win the football game. They were pumped up, high-fiving. Heck, Coach Hall almost tackled me after the game when I was about to do the interview. So it was cool to see the energy and the excitement in the program as they start off to that 2-0 start. He's an offensive guy. I love what he did tempo-wise. They got a young quarterback in Quinn Mahoney there. Just showed a lot of moxie and poise, made enough plays, has not played much football, but he did what he needed to do to will his team to a win. But like I did in the interview with him and talked about here, the defense was really the star of the show for the Bishops. I mean, they were really able to stop that passing game. Drew Goldsmith, the Super 75 guy, for us over on that Hanahan side, really didn't have an impact in that game because of how well their defense played. Opportunistic, able to really lock down in the red zone, propelled them. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Hanahan. This is a team that's very good. They're very well coached. You have Coach Turner there, Coach Willis, Coach Fields. They do a fantastic job. They just didn't capitalize on their opportunities. They could have easily won this football game, but like we talk about here early in the non-region play, it's good teaching tape. You don't want to lose, but it's a situation where they're going to be fine. They've got low numbers, but the kids are really bought in. I think they'll be fine. But, Kevin, I cannot speak enough about the hospitality that I received there. They were so fantastic, from the coaching staff to support staff to the people I encountered, concession stands, even met school board member, got some pictures of, boosters cooking on the grill. I mean, it was a fantastic atmosphere, great crowd for such terrible weather. It was nasty out there all Friday night, but it was a great crowd on both sides. Definitely got to get down there to a Hanahan game. If you're in that area, go support that program because they're doing some fantastic things, and those kids deserve it. And just really excited about these two programs. We're going to be talking about them a lot as the season progresses.
Certainly appreciate all our friends there. You mentioned Coach Hall and Coach Willis and Coach Fields and Coach Turner and everybody at Hanahan for kind of, really late notice finding out that you're going to be going over there day of, sending them a text. They're able to set you up with some great stuff.
Perfect.
Certainly appreciate the guys down there at Hanahan and obviously our friends at Bishop England as well. But, Jerel, let's take a look now over at our Carolina Orthopedic and Neurosurgical Associates Games of the Week, our Kona Games of the Week there for short.
We're going to throw it up to the upstate, and it goes to Anderson County there. Had Westside and Hannah. This is always a big, hotly contested rivalry up there. And I said throw it up there because Cutter Wood's the star of the show for the Westside Rams, and they win this game 56-20. Honestly, Kevin, it wasn't that close. I mean, they jumped out early, And, with Hannah, that's an offense that's not built to come from behind, and they definitely could not do so with the Rams offense firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, that game was not that close. I mean, Westside just absolutely hammered those boys. Too much Cutter Woods running the ball, throwing the ball. You got Bomar and Sherrod Richardson, all those guys having big games for them. I mean, this team is really impressive, especially coming off of a bye week, to be so crisp was really nice there. They play a tough schedule. They certainly do, and they have certainly risen to the challenge so far. Coach Lane's squad is going to be, in for a deep playoff run, it feels like. Big win for them. On the TL Hannah side, obviously they still got some things to work out. That offense is going to be tough for somebody down the stretch. They'll get it figured out and get it rolling a little bit better, but the defense worries me a little bit there. That wasn't a great performance from them on that side, but can't say enough about Westside and what they've done so far this season.
The most impressive thing for the Westside win for me is they had guys out, and impact players too, due to, suspension and injury as well. And they're still able to take, care of this game rather easily. So that was a big time win for Westside. Got to love to beat your crosstown rival there. But moving on to another rivalry, one of the oldest, actually the oldest in the state, and that was Camden and Hartsville. Camden's able to come back in the second half and win this game 22-14. It was 14-7 out of the half, and Camden just really dug their heels in, played some great defense, and was able to score a couple times to take the victory.
Yeah, I believe Hartsville actually was up 14-0 in this game before Camden comes back to win it. A big game from Tylen Drakeford. You'll hear more about him later on. They actually, really kind of got them going. They had a blocked punt return. Special teams can always be key in this. Usually it's Hartsville making the big special teams plays.
Yeah.
Not on Friday. Camden kind of took advantage of that, had one of those for a touchdown. Drakeford throws a touchdown pass to Krim on a trick play there. Just a great game plan from Coach Rimp, pulling out some trick plays, some gadget plays there, but whatever works. And both these teams really want to win that ball game. So I don't blame them at all for not holding anything back there. Great win for the Bulldogs. Awesome atmosphere as always down there, I'm sure, between those two. A really nice one for Camden. Hartsville, they're going to be fine. They still got a bunch of new pieces they're breaking in. John was really high on a new running back we haven't heard a lot from yet. Said he played really well. Kylan Miller, I believe was his name there. Obviously know about Hakeem Waters and those guys, but two teams that will be there at the end can make some nice runs. But great win for Camden. Really nice win for Coach Rimp's team.
I feel like that's Hartsville every year that we cover them, Kevin. It's like we know a guy or two that they have in that backfield, but then there's always that next guy that shows out in these big-time games. So it's going to be exciting to keep up with his career. But moving on to another fantastic game, another rivalry game, that was Clinton and Newberry. Clinton's able to, rely on that defense to get this win, shutting down a high-powered Newberry offense, held that offense to 7 points. But they're able to win this game 23-14. The Red Devils are back.
Awesome performance there. We were, Jerel, to be frank, we were a little bit worried. We saw them back in week 1, and Woodruff did a lot of really nice things on offense against Clinton. And then Clinton comes back, 2 weeks in a row now. I think held Lawrence to like a $175 offense, something like that. And then they come out and just shut down this high-powered Newberry offense on Friday. Really impressive for Coach Campbell and Coach Fountain and the Red Devils over there. Offensively, Javen Cook had a big game there. He really carried the load for them on offense. Newberry, looking at their side, we thought there was a chance that this might be obviously knew it was going to be a tough game because really they had not played a tough team up until now. I think they had beat Union County, and they had beaten one more. I cannot remember who. Mid-Carolina, I believe it was. So this was really their first test. A lot of pieces are still trying to get figured out, and I think they've been rotating kind of two quarterbacks a little bit. They got the Howells kid at wide receiver. They know about him, but I think they're a team to still to look out for in 3A. But Clinton, that was a big win, a really impressive win to me. Just the way that they won it, holding Newberry to 14-7 on a kickoff return, of course, there. But great win for Clinton there.
Heading south, we had Barnwell and Bamberg Earhart. The Warhorses are able to take this one 21-7 over Bamberg. The Warhorses, that defense has really carried them early in the season. They have played very, very good. These are two teams that are going to, contend for state championships in their respective, divisions.
Yeah, two really talented teams. A good old, fashioned rivalry matchup there between those two guys. I believe Chanston Crosby had a rushing touchdown there for Bamberg. I think Cam Austin, had 2 rushing touchdowns. Which, that's something I wanted to mention, Jerel, is that we've seen this early in the year, 3 weeks now into the season.
Yeah.
They've really used a lot of Cam's legs for Barnwell there. I think he had 3 rushing touchdowns that first game. I believe he had maybe 2 more last week in their win over Williston Elko, if not more than that. He's a really good athlete, runner and thrower. And I like what Coach Smith and the guys are doing there, Coach Garrick and squad, getting him involved on the ground as well. I think that will certainly bode them well as the season rolls on.
Most definitely. Going to our Skeezy game of the week, ended up not being a game at all, Kevin. That was Northwood all over my preseason champion in LMA. They win this game 42-6. Northwood, I think they're off to a 5-0 start here. They got a bye next week. They're going to be feeling real good for 2 weeks, kind of like Clemson fans are right now. But that is a huge win for Northwood.
I mean, it was a shocker to me. I think I picked Lawrence Manning as well. But either way, did not think it would be, that big of a spread. It was 28-0 at halftime. I mean, just nothing at all going for Lawrence Manning. Great win for Coach Waters and the guys. That is super impressive there. And I think they made a statement. They're a big-time contender now, I think, in their class.
Again, our Kona games of the week were Westside over Hannah 56-20. We had Camden defeating Hartsville 22-14. Clinton over Newberry 23-14. Barnwell defeats Bamberg Earhart 21-7. And our Skeezy game of the week, we had Northwood over Lawrence Manning 42-6. Kevin, let's take a look down at our HTC Hometown Connection game of the week. And we finally picked one that lived up to the billing, and that was Johnsonville playing Georgetown. The Flash is able to win a thriller 24-21. Hey, Johnsonville's kind of had a rough go of it to start the season. Georgetown, it's been a team that's played well early this year, but Johnsonville's able to get it done by 3.
Great win for Coach Cribb's team. They score a late touchdown. I believe about 4 minutes to go. They get into the end zone there to win that game. Big game by a couple of the running backs there. We had Bryson Howell, 11 for 135 and a touchdown, and Jay McFadden, 16 for 115 and 3 touchdowns. Really getting done on the ground. They're breaking in the new quarterback still, Larkin Powell. I think he threw, 4 or 5 passes on Friday. Obviously still trying to get him to kind of come along and grow up. He's just a sophomore there, relying on the run game, and that's a heck of a win over a Georgetown team that we think is improved. We don't think they're a great football team by any means, but they are certainly improved from what they did last year. Johnsonville, they will keep getting better and better as the season goes on, but really nice win for Coach Cribb's squad there.
And again, if you're in the Marion, Georgetown, Horry area, please please reach out to our friends at HTC. They've come on board to help us and support us this year. So we would love it if you would support them. They are great people. But that game, again, was Johnsonville over Georgetown 24-21. Kevin, let's go down to our Pick'em contest games. Our Pick'em contest is presented, as always, by our great friends at Hanna Engineering. Love Hanna Engineering for sponsoring this. Again, I say this almost every week. One of my favorite things that we do is the Pick'em contest. First game, it's a big one in the upstate. Jerel Man exercised some demons after losing last week in overtime. They knock off Daniel 28-23. A lot of implications with this victory for Jerel Man, but those implications are more on the Daniel side. Breaks a lot of streaks for the Lions losing in the regular season here.
Yeah, 46-game winning streak for Daniel going into this ball game. But if you're Daniel, you can't be really upset at this loss. I mean, Jerel Man's a very good football team. The one thing that we've been asking for Daniel the last couple of years, Jerel, is to play some higher non-region games, some better competition. And I think, a lot of times it wasn't Daniel's fault. People just didn't want to play him. This year, they've got some big games finally, and a great matchup between these two. McLeod Darnell for Jerel Man didn't have his best game, but kind of kept the ship, kept the train on the tracks there for them. Nasias Morris and LaDania Martin both had a couple of touchdown runs. I think Martin had one, Morrison with 2 there for the Patriots, and I think they had a couple scored lead. Daniel came back, scored in the 4th to make it a one-possession game, but couldn't quite pull out the win there. Daniel, I mean, obviously you don't want to lose a streak like that, but they're going to be just fine, Jerel. We know they're going to be a contender in 4A.
Oh, yeah.
They're a team to look out for. And another thing that we may talk about in the coming weeks on our preview show, I wanted to mention to you now and kind of get your thoughts on this. That Jerel Man, obviously, they're a 5A team. A lot of times you don't see this at 5A, but they play a lot of guys both ways. I've seen some of these receivers. I saw LaDania Martin playing both ways last week. What do you think about that? I mean, obviously, early in the season, you worry a little bit like, hey, do you wear them out? What do you do? But what is your take on that, especially in non-region games at the higher classifications like this?
I don't necessarily like it this early in the season. Like, I think it's more like those spot things. But when you have these programs like Man and Daniel and these teams that we're seeing who are playing such high level non-region contests, I think you have to, because at the end of the day, these coaches and players are competitors and they want to win. But also, to kind of contradict myself a little bit, I think you should get your best guys on the field. I mean, you got to play your best guys. You think with schools like this, you would be able to have enough talent in the hallways to where you won't have to play both guys both ways, but if you got to do it to get it done and win the football game, by all means, hey, LaDainian, whoever, you need to go out there and suit up and go play some DB for me. But I think it's great. Again, I'm just excited that we are talking about the Daniel Lions this early in the season because, like you mentioned, we have not been able to do that the last couple of years. I mean, they have not been able to schedule that high-level talent. They go out this year, they do it. I mean, last week they played Stratford, in a neutral site game. But it's exciting to talk about the Lions. This loss, I know it hurts. You don't want to break those long streaks, but it's a team, they're going to compete for a state title. JL Man is also, they're a top 5, top 8 team in 5A. So it's going to help them out as well. Really excited about these early, non-region, non-traditional games and these teams getting better. But Kevin, let's move on to our next game. And this is another team that's getting better and getting better in a hurry. That's Woodruff. They win over a red hot Emerald team, 62-35. That offense is cooking, for Coach Sloan. And, they got some playmakers, some real studs over there.
Yeah, I believe Corey Moats had a big game there. Anytime you put up 62 points, I mean, you're doing something right there. We love the quarterback, TJ Morris. We love the running back, the young kid there as well. Coach Sloan's doing a fantastic job. Yeah, Aiden Gibson. Yeah, Coach Sloan's doing a fantastic job there. What he's done in just 2 years has been really impressive. And I think they're a team that is going to be sneaky in 3A. Not sure what to make of Emerald now. They had a couple nice wins, but not really be competitive in that ball game. Kind of surprised me a little bit, but great win for the Wolverines.
Most definitely. Going back to Anderson, another rivalry there. We had Wren and Powdersville. This one's special because, Powdersville essentially broke off from Wren High School. But this game was not close. Coach Freight's bunch, they get after it. They won it 34-7 over Powdersville. Powdersville has had a rough start to this season. They've lost some close ones. Getting blown out by a rival here is not good. But Wren, man, you got to like what they're doing early in the season.
Super, super impressed with their defense in this ball game. Powdersville been putting up a lot of points. I think we're averaging 40-plus a game. To hold them to 7 was really special. We knew they could score on offense. We know Colton Bagwell. We know Reese Price. I believe Price had 100-plus again this week, 2 touchdowns. But that defense, Coach Freight's a defensive guy, and he did a great job in this game. Had a great scheme ready for the Patriots there, holding a high-powered bunch to 7 points. Super impressive. Really nice win for Wren.
And moving back to the Low Country, this is a big-time 5A matchup in the state. Maybe the biggest game, one of the biggest games in the state. Maybe one day we'll be able to cover it. That was Somerville and Berkeley. The Green Wave are able to win this game 41-35. I know Berkeley scored a late touchdown to kind of make it look a little bit better. This one was tight at the half, but the Green Wave are really just getting it done early in the season.
They're playing great football, man. And another team that's had a super tough schedule is Somerville. Played Stratford, South Florence, now here with Berkeley this week in a big-time rivalry game. You mentioned it, they were up 2 scores. I think Berkeley scored the last play of the game there to make it look a little bit better there. But 2 teams that I'm really high on, Berkeley with Henry Rivers, sophomore quarterback is going to keep getting better and better. I think he had about 295, 300 yards last week, something like that. Passing, had another 40 or 50 on the ground, a couple touchdowns there. A lot of playmakers with Bash and Boone and whatnot for Coach Lodge there. But Somerville is a team that I was a little bit worried about going into the season because I just felt like they lost so much with Yannick Smith and some other guys there. But Jaden Cummings has been playing great. Jaden Kelly Murray's been playing great. Coach Rafferty's doing a fantastic job, and I think they are a real legit 5A contender.
I think so too, man. This is just a fantastic football team. They scheduled hard. They've played well. The Green Wave are legit, and I think it may be the difference at quarterback. You have a senior versus a sophomore here. That could be the difference. And Jaden Cummings is that guy right now. Henry Rivers is the guy that's going to be
next up.
But yeah, legitimately, he's up next. That's a very talented Berkeley team. They're going to make some noise as well. So it's going to be a situation where we may see these 2 teams playing again. I don't know how the classifications break down, as I forgot about 5A splitting up. So, but anyways, Another big time matchup we had, though, and this one lived up to the billing, man. That's Batesburg-Leesville versus Abbeville. Could be the upset of the night, even though it's a 2A, 1A thing. But Abbeville, I mean, is a 2A school. Some consider it maybe a 3A school with how well they play football. But Batesburg's able to win a thriller 37-35. Kevin, what do you make of this game? I mean, this has got to be huge, uplifting that Batesburg program.
I believe I saw first time in 10 years. I think that they've beaten them. Just a great win for Coach Lawson's squad. You know, he took over a couple years ago a program that, I mean, had some weird stuff going on. You know, I mean, if you guys don't remember that coaching search, they hire a guy. A couple months later, he backs out, says he can't come, and they got to, you know, basically the Panthers had to find somebody last minute. And, you know, Coach Lawson was a fantastic hire because he's been all around the state, coached a lot of really big football, and that was a great gift for them. I mean, maybe it's a blessing in the skies the way that this whole thing worked out, but they had some down years the last couple of years. I know I'd always read where they had some talent that kind of maybe kept going other places, to some other schools in the area. It feels like you got some of those guys to stay in Batesburg now, and a team that has really grown up the last 2 years, has some really good playmakers on offense. They're a really competitive team in 2A. I think they're going to have a chance to make some noise. A team that we talked about in our preview show for the season, Jerel, that we had heard good things about. And I think we heard some correct takes from folks on that. And I think the Panthers are going to be a real problem for some folks.
Yeah, I think both Panthers are going to be a real problem for some folks.
I have to go Panthers as well. Both of them. Yeah, both sets of Panthers.
Most definitely. And I will say, we'll probably talk about this again on Tuesday. We might have to slide down to Batesburg next week. They got a primetime matchup as well. And we could get some more Sheely's barbecue down there. So we'll talk about
also shout out on the Abbeville side. DeMarcus Leach has been playing a fantastic quarterback spot. You know, he's a guy that's known as a DB. He's committed to South Carolina as a DB, played some QB last year, I think, with some injuries and whatnot, but he has been really, really good so far this year, running and throwing the ball. Kind of gives him an extra dimension there with the pass. They haven't had a ton lately, but he's done a great job, and that offense is lighting it up as always.
Most definitely. Let's wrap this thing up with our last matchup. And this was a thriller, a stunner, a defensive battle till the end. And that was James Island and Goose Creek. James Island able to win this game 10-7.
Last second touchdown pass as time expires from Granger to Herter, I believe is how you said the guy's name. I saw the video online. I mean, it was a heck of a ball, heck of a catch. Just kind of sliding out of the end zone on the side there. Awesome play for Coach McCoy's squad. Heck of a defensive matchup for both sides. Holding Goose Creek and Malik McGowan to 7 points is awesome. And then holding James Island for Goose Creek there to 10 is a really impressive feat as well. So fantastic ball game. I believe that was down there at the backyard, I think. So great win there for James Island at home. Fantastic football game all around, it sounds like.
James Island, man, they've had to replace so much on offense, but that Coach McCoy's defense is still getting after it and still getting it done. But going again through our pick'em contest presented by Hannah Engineering, we had Jerel Man defeating Daniel 28-23, Woodruff big over Emerald 62-35, Wren defeats rival Powdersville 34-7, Somerville over Berkeley 41-35, Batesburg-Leesville, they win a thriller against Abbeville 37-35, and James Island comes back to defeat Goose Creek 10-7.
At HTC, we're here to keep you connected. Here to provide reliable fiber optic internet with free, fast, and secure HTC Smart Wi-Fi. HTC, here to connect.
Carolina Orthopedic and Neurosurgical Associates, KONA, offers the most advanced training and experience in orthopedic surgery, neurosurgery, sports medicine, and pain management in the upstate. 3 convenient locations in Spartanburg, Duncan, and Greenville. Go to kona.care to learn more.
Let's take a look now at our stock up, stock down segment here, Jerel. A couple stocks up I've got. Stocks up. I don't know, whatever it will be, but a couple teams I've got for stock up. Let's put it that way. How about that? I've got Jerel Man, a big bounce back win. For me, this pick, Jerel, was more about not that, I think they're a better football team now. I thought they were, but just the fact that they were able to come back from a tough loss last week to Gaffney and beat a very good team. That really showed me a lot, kind of the makeup of that team there. They went for the Patriots. And then Northwestern, just throttling South Florence. This South Florence team right now is not as good as some of the past couple of years. I think they will get there eventually. But still, to beat them like they did in a non-competitive football game, awesome win for the Trojans there and Coach Walford.
Speaking of throttling, I got West Side. They dispatch of, crosstown rival Hannah there. Big time win. They moved to 2-0 on the season. I mean, just one of the most prolific offenses that we get to see and one of the best teams in the state. And then also ODub. I want to talk about ODub. I think they moved to 3-0 on the year, having a great season so far. They beat Airport on Friday. Just excited to see what they're going to be able to get done this season.
I've got Woodmont, the Wildcats. They lost their first ball game last week, come back and beat a good Pendleton team there. Nice win for Coach Sutherland. That is on my stock up, along with Camden. We mentioned that game earlier. Comeback win over Hartsville. Anytime you win that rivalry game, very impressive there for the Bulldogs.
Rattle off a couple here. Bishop England. Got to love what Coach Hall's doing with that team. The Battling Bishops get it done against hand-to-hand. We had Chesney. They defeated a really hot Walhalla team, playing very good. And then Clinton, they suffered that week 0 loss to a really good Woodruff team. They've won 2 great ball games back-to-back, and dispensing of Newberry was no small task.
Pickens, Coach Reynolds and the boys get a close victory over Liberty. And then May River, man, I feel like they've been on here every week, maybe. Coach Bonneville and the boys continue to roll. Nice win again on Friday night for the Sharks.
2 more hyphenated. Batesburg, Leesville. We already talked about them beating Abbeville. That's a big time game for them. And then Blackfield Hilda. Again, we saw them early in the year. Actually, we saw them week 0. We saw Clinton. Oh no, we did. We saw both of them week 0.
Yeah, Thursday night.
Blackfield Hilda. Coming up, beating 96. That's a big time win for those guys.
Then the last one I've got here, you mentioned earlier, Batesburg Leesville may have been the upset of the week. We got a strong contender here, Jerel, and that's Central. Yeah. The Eagles take down Lamar in overtime, 40-38. Great win for first-year Coach Eason there. Awesome win for Central. And I think that's all I've got for stock up. Anybody else you got there, Jerel?
We had Northwood. That was the last one that we had this week.
That's right.
Huge for them. I mean, just destroying Lawrence Manning, the state runner-up last year. Big time win, not even close. I think they moved to 5-0 on the season.
On the flip side, stock down. I've got Brooklyn Casey, a tough loss to White Knoll, and they've gotten blown out a couple times so far this year. A little bit worried about that program, but I think they'll be fine down the stretch. But right now they are struggling a little bit. And then Carolina Forest getting blanked by Huff. I thought they'd at least put up a few points, stay somewhat competitive, but not a good look for the Panthers on this past Friday.
I got 2 this week, and they may, be unpopular, but I got South Florence just not being competitive in that game. I know injuries are a part of it. You have some early season struggles, but that was a bad loss. And then also Greenville. I mean, I know that Gaffney is a fantastic football team. Again, they will compete. They're chasing their 19th state title, but Greenville was not even competitive in that game. I think they lost it 54-9, 54-7. Not good for the Red Raiders.
The last 2 that I've got, Emerald, a team that had started really hot, had been on stock up, I think, already this year. They
played TR. You inflated them.
To get blown out by Woodruff was a bit of a surprise there. Not a great look for the Vikings. Then Walhalla, a tough loss to Chesney there as well, a team that we had also had on stock up, I think, this year. Tough loss there for the Razorbacks. Anybody else for you, Jerel, on stock up there? Sorry, stock down this week?
That is all that I have this week.
Perfect. Well, let's take a look now at our Players of the Week, brought to you by the Georgia HC. Once again, lots of great nominees. As always, guys, send us your nominees on Facebook, on Twitter, on email, whatever's better for you. Get them over to us. We will read those stats out. Like, we definitely want to shout out these kids. We don't get to see all these stats. We try to find them on social media, try to find them on MaxPrep. Sometimes they're just not there to be seen. So if you see a great performance, certainly help us out with that. Love to give these guys a shout out. And then obviously we'll announce our official Players of the Week here at the end of this segment. But go ahead, Jerel, with some of our nominees from this week here in week 2.
We'll start off. You mentioned him earlier in the show. That was Javen Cook from Clinton, had 25 carries, 235 yards, and a touchdown in their win over Newberry. We had Caleb Sutton from Hillcrest. We got 2 Hillcrest nominees this week. Caleb goes 20 of 32 for 324, 2 touchdowns. Also had 5 carries and 48 yards for another score. Weston Willis. This was a historic night. I think he moved into the top 5 as far as all time, single game performances for Hillcrest. He had 9 catches for 192 and 2 touchdowns. Silas Parrish of Walhalla, 20 tackles, 1.5 for loss, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery. Then on the offensive side, had 4 catches for 32 yards, 5 totes for 36 more, and a touchdown. Jalen McGill, finally Clemson offered. I love that for this kid from MVP. Had 174 on the ground, 162 receiving, 336 all-purpose yards, and 5 touchdowns in their win over St. Joe's. Ethan Shipman from Louisville. I love this. O-line stats. 7 pancakes, 97% grade, and 2 sacks on the defensive side of the football. Joshua Davis from Florence Christian goes 19 carries for 68 yards, a touchdown, 3 tackles, and a pass breakup. Tylen Drakeford from Camden had 4 catches for 42 yards and a touchdown, 7 rushes for 40 yards. Had 1 of 1 passing for 45 yards and a touchdown, also 7 tackles and a pick in their big-time win over Hartsville. Marquise Henderson of BHP, 9 totes for 196, 3 touchdowns, has now the most career rushing yards in school history there at BHP. Next is Dominic Odom of Blacksburg, had 12 carries for 185 and 3 touchdowns. Also from Blacksburg, Josh Sims goes 13 of 19 for 243 and 4 touchdowns. Tanner Watkins of Batesburg-Leesville, he goes 15 of 17 for 266. I'm not sure the touchdown total is kind of disputed, but he at least had 3 of them, and 3 of those went to Kate Witt for 4 catches and 115 yards. Amandre Wooden, also of Batesburg, had 16 carries for 107 and a touchdown. And then we had Stone Furry of Chapin with 154 all-purpose yards, 2 touchdowns, and a punt return TD.
And our players of the week, brought to you by the Georgia Agency. This week we have Javon Gilmore at Gaffney, 24 for 27, 330 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. Huge game for Javon there. We have Colt Bailey at Wardlaw, goes 5 for 9 for 133 and 4 touchdowns. Also 21 carries for 245 and 2 touchdowns. 6 total touchdowns there for Colt. And then John Peoples at Sumter, 20 carries, $159, 5 touchdowns, and broke Jamacia Jackson's career rush TD mark at Sumter. Great performance from all those guys. But once again, shout out to our 3 players of the week: Javon Gilmore at Gaffney, Colt Bailey at Wardlaw, and then John Peoples at Sumter. Jerel, these guys, everybody we just read out had huge games, man, but especially Gilmore, Bailey, and Peoples as they earned this week's top honor.
Yeah, and don't be discouraged if you've sent us stats 3 weeks into the year and we haven't picked you yet. There's a lot of guys that we talk about week in and week out that's going to get selected at some point of the year. So keep balling out, and you too will most likely be a winner. But like Kevin mentioned, send us stats. I love reading those stats off every week. You might not like hearing me read them, but I like to do it. Especially, I love this week the O-line stats. Man, give me those. We're gonna have to figure out an O-line award one of these days.
Perfect. So once again, appreciate the Georgia Agency there for sponsoring our players of the week. Jerel, the only note I've got, we already mentioned the Sumter note, the BHP note for the rushing records for Peoples and Henderson there. But I do want to mention that was the 300th win in Hillcrest history on Friday night. So congrats to the Rams over there with that. But let's give another quick shout out to our friends of the program before we wrap up the show. The Georgia Agency has been serving the insurance needs of South Carolina for over 40 years. They're a full-line insurance agency concentrated in employee benefits and health insurance with an office in Mullins and Murrells Inlet, but they can help you all across the state. They have clients in Greer, Rock Hill, Columbia, and more, so wherever you are, they can help. Give Bradley, Wayne, Richard, and the crew a call or check them out online at thegeorgiaagency.net. That's thegeorgiaagency.net. Jerel, it's time for the Folly Row question this week. What do you got for us?
Good or bad? So, or you can pick 2, whatever you want to decide to do. We're 3 weeks in, so we can make a little bit of a judgment call. But who's your surprise team so far this season?
Man, that's tough. There's a couple that jump out to me.
You can. It's our show. Whatever you want. You can pick multiple teams.
That's true. That's a great point. I've been very surprised by Woodruff. They've been very impressive. I've liked what I've seen out of those guys. On the flip side, a little bit worried about South Florence. Not super worried, but just a little bit worried. And then another good team, a team I mentioned earlier, which, I mean, maybe not a surprise to some folks, but somewhat of a surprise to me. That's Somerville. They've just been so dominant, and they've got a couple really nice wins right now. So that's 3 that kind of pop off the top of my head. Who do you have? I may come back with some more. We'll see. But who are some guys that have surprised you so far this season?
Yeah, I gotta copy you on one of them, and that's got to be Woodruff there. just the way that they've won. They went into Clinton, were able to win that football game, in a hostile environment in week 0. Then they come back last week. They went on the last second field goal. And then this week, absolutely dominating Emeralds. So Woodruff is definitely a team that surprised me so far. And then South Florence, I put them on stock down this week. I know they're dealing with some things, but just the way that they just have not played very well to start the season. Their consensus, top 2 team, from everybody, coming into the season. I know they've played some difficult opponents, but just South Florence, I'm kind of concerned about the Bruins thus far.
Yeah, like I said, I think they're going to be just fine. I think they're going to be a state title contender. I'm not really worried about them down the line, but just right at this point, I'm like, I wish they'd have played a little better. But, that's part of why. Part of what happens, I guess, whenever you schedule a
long year
non-region, it's going to happen. Another team I do want to shout out too that has surprised me in a bad way, Midland Valley. Coming off what they did last year, I know they had the head coaching change and losing Trayvon Dunbar and whatnot, but just to be 0-3 right now, first 2 games not even competitive. This last week you have a 14-0 lead to Lexington, you blow that and lose by multiple scores there. Not a great look there for the Mustangs. It's been a team that has been surprising in a bad way for me there. Anybody else, Jerel, that has jumped out to you? I think that's most of the ones that I've seen and thought of.
We've got another opportunity to talk about Loris. I knew they were going to be good.
I told you they're going to be good, Jerel. Don't put that on me. Come on now.
No, I just didn't know they were going to be this good. I'm really impressed with Lawrence. Like it's in a good way. Like I knew they were going to be good. You've been talking about this program for a long time, but they've really seemed like they've put it together and they've gelled early in the season.
Yeah, they're looking great right now. Another big win over, I think, South Columbus on Friday, a North Carolina squad there. They're playing really good football right now, man. No matter what class, they beat Conway a couple weeks ago, a 5A squad. They are playing some super good football for Coach Mance. They're going to be a team, I think, that is going to be making a lot of noise in 3A this year. Anybody else for you, Jerel, in this surprise segment here from Folly Row?
No, but that is subject to change. We could do this question every week and probably have a different result. But those are the teams I've got so far. For sure. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, check us out on Facebook, Twitter /X, Instagram, YouTube, and more at Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS, MovinChains.com. Our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Do our weekly preview show about on Tuesday night about 7:15 on Facebook and YouTube. Our recap show on Sundays. Teams of the week, players of the week, interviews, all really good stuff throughout the week as well. Definitely check us out for that. Our food review Fridays are doing really well. Jerel's got a great one from Hanahan coming out next Friday. That'll be really cool to see there. Get your merch, get your hats, your T-shirts, your hoodies, your toboggans, mtcgear.sc@gmail.com. DM us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Email us. Love to get you guys hooked up with that. Jerel, any final thoughts on week 2 as we wrap up here? Kevin, we're going into week 3. The numbers are getting higher and I'm already getting sad. We're already a month into the season and you know how this goes every year. We look up and then, we're in the playoffs. So that's the scary thing. But the exciting thing is we're approaching region play and that's always where things get intense. So I'm excited about that. Excited about Tuesday, to preview another great slate and just love all the things that are happening here at Movin The Chains. Please be sure to follow us. Tell your friends and family about us. We love doing this and love shining a light on South Carolina high school football. For sure. And always, feel free to interact with us either in person, online, whatever. Like we're always down to talk high school football. So don't be afraid to send us some messages, guys. We love chatting it up with you guys for sure. But this has been our Week 2 Folly Row recap show here on Movin The Chains. For Jerel Hendricks, I'm Kevin Thomas, and we will catch you guys next week.
Get ready for the ultimate South Carolina high school football experience with Movin The Chains. From previews to recaps, we've got you covered. Dive into our expert preview shows, predicting winners and sharing insights. Then join us post-game for the thrilling recaps, exclusive interviews, and highlights you won't find anywhere else. Plus, connect with fellow fans on our Friday night spaces on Twitter /X. No one covers South Carolina high school football like us. Join us at Movin Chains on all social media platforms and visit movinchains.com today.